right, start this off. So today was pretty interesting. Let us look at our dashboard. As you guys can see, so today is Wednesday. We're already these 2 days we lost 465, right? And I'll go over the trades. I technically took two trades. This trade here says two. This is all part of one move, so I personally just consider that one trade. Um, and then based off my rule, I have a rule where if I just lose two trades, then I'm done trading for that day. So this was one trade. At night, I took this a trade, and then in the morning, I took a US 30 right trade and lost. So once I lost this trade, didn't even look for any more trades. Simply just closed my laptop and just moved on. Right, forgot about it. And like I said, this is the only time I'm going to even talk about these trades. After this, it's simply just moving on, right? Just moving on, forgetting about it. Never, we learn from the mistake, we learn from the trade, and then we just simply move on, right? Same thing goes for even a winning trades, right? We learn from them, take what we can from them, and then simply just move on, right? So yeah, getting into this trade here, right? So this first trade was this trade here. It was off UJ. I took this trade. I want to say sometime around like 9 p.m. 9 p.m. on that Tuesday night. So let's go and talk about this. Coming into the day, right? Coming into the day, I understood that we were a bit more bullish based off the daily, right? If we were to just mark this off, higher low. And also, I did not record it live. I'm trying to figure out better ways of just kind of recording live. Just because I did take this, I mean, maybe I'm just gonna just start posting just like sporadic videos, I guess you can say. Just because again, when I took this trade, it was at nighttime, and like I said, my next trade wasn't even until the next morning, so it's kind of hard for me to like, I guess trade and I guess yeah, trade live in just one full clip and one full video, right? But I do really want to start trading live just so I can really get a raw, like I said before, right? Just get a raw action, just raw feeling, raw understanding of what I was going through throughout that entire thought process, right? Of that trade, kind of going through it all. Why I entered, what I was seeing, maybe just kind of realizing what I wasn't looking at, what I should have been looking at, especially this trade, right? These two trades, like I said, these were tough losses, right? 465. Obviously, for me, it's still been like a big number of a loss, but it wasn't that big of a loss to me. I'll go over it. But like I said, we still have tonight if we do decide to trade, and then Thursday plus Friday. And like I said, I'll just go through the whole entire thing, right? First of all, right, as I said, we're coming to this daily time frame bullish, right? We had this higher low and then we had this higher high. So I knew based off the daily time frame, we were just more bullish, right? We had a potential higher low point around this area as this was retracing, right? So now breaking this down based off the H4 time frame, I was seeing that all this here, we were still obviously bullish, like I just said, even just based off this higher low, higher high. It's that same push, right? So all this is just a lower time frame, but this is still the same thing. It's just one big push, and that's pretty much it, right? So I knew that we were still essentially bullish. Still bullish, right? So then at this point in time, right, based off this time frame, I felt really confident, right? We were within this right here, this candle, and I knew that if we would potentially push up here, I had insert here, as you guys can see, got taken out off this candle here. But this was our entry candle within this 4-hour time frame here, right? So even with this exhaustion, I still understood that okay, even if we were going to look to kind of sell this position, H1 wasn't really giving me that, right? So based off this time frame, like I said, we were just kind of pushing here, and like I said, it could have potentially made a lower high point. So I was looking at that, right? I wanted to look on the H1 time frame to see if it was kind of transitioning into some type of bearish momentum based off the H1. If not, if it was, then I wouldn't have even looked for a trade to begin with, right? So then I come down here, right, to this H1 time frame, and then I see that we're still bullish, right? We're still kind of creating this little higher low, higher high, right? And this was just a higher low here. So I knew that once we got this, essentially H1 is still bullish, right? So based off the H1, isn't really giving me anything bearish here. I mean, I could still understand the fact that, again, overall it's more bearish, right? And this could have been a potential lower high point, here. But at the end of the day, it's like even when it was coming down here, at this point, it was still a lot more bullish, essentially because we broke above here. This was like a higher low point. So we were still within this higher low, like I just said, higher low, higher high. So I knew that I could, again, look for a buy opportunity because H1 was giving me the opportunity to be able to take that short, right? So yeah, so this is how I was coming in based off this time frame here, right? Now understanding all this now, we go and inch off we go down to M15, right? M15 time frame. So now coming down to this M15 time frame, right? What was my thought process? I'm trying to remember. A lot of the work that I did do was on my laptop, and for some reason it did not sync. So I'm trying to just remember exactly how I'm doing this. So obviously this was a 38.2, right? Based off this M15, we never even really broke a level of support, right? There's no real. So this was a 38.2 retracement. But based off this M15, like we never really broke support like that to begin with, right? Even based off here, I mean, we kind of have this little itty bitty support. But once again, with this fib, I would just say 23.6, right? So I understood that. And even when we came down here into this 38.2, I was like, okay, cool. We have a potential opportunity to continue to go up, right? So even when it pushed up here, right, this wasn't even a true like buy opportunity for me, based off the fact that we're still kind of like we're maintaining bullish momentum, but at the same time this bearish momentum, right? Like we still if we go down to like the M5 time frame, it's more bearish. So I was still waiting for this to kind of come into play, right? So we still had this lower high, lower low, lower high up here. This was just noise, wasn't really. This was the true lower high point, and still continuing to come down, right? So I still knew that I was still had to be a lot more patient with this whole entire move here. And then we once again we enter this lower high, right? So this is where I start potentially looking for this buy opportunity. Lower high point, right? And then boom, we come down and we create what? Not a lower low, but we created a higher low point, right? Boom. So with this here, I don't know if you guys can see it. Again, I wish I could have. I don't know why I did not sync. At this time, I also noticed. I mean, if you want to, I considered it a inverse head and shoulder pattern, right? And then I was able to potentially see this kind of push up. Boom. Right, we got the push up like we wanted, so this is where I kind of got into my entry here. Start to break this down. So based off the M15 time frame, right, we still were not, like I said, we were still maintaining all this time, but I still wanted to see like a true lower high point be broken, and that was this area here, right? And technically, it wasn't yet broken until, like I said, we kind of got up here. But just understanding just the overall everything was going on, and this is where I had messed up, right? This is where initially I should have been a lot more patient, a lot more patient, because it's not a bad entry, and I would take this entry every time, over and over. I would take this entry again. But the thing about this was go down to the I think it was on M3. Let me see. Hold on. Let me just mark this one off because I'm losing track. Okay, let's go down to the M3 time frame. So I understood two things. Okay, it's crazy how this line is the only thing that synced. So this was that area based off the higher time frame, right? So now my thought process here was if we can break this here, because that's that lower high point, if we can just get a candle above there, that would be a break, right? Obviously, higher low, higher high. That would transition the whole entire thing. Plus, right? Plus, this would be that M15 bullish engulfing, right? Boom. Up here, boom. So that was the entry, right? Now, all along here, even though I understood that this was still an early entry, the only reason why I had entered there, if not, I would have been a lot more patient waiting for this higher low point here. But the only reason why I did not enter it was because I still, and this is a big mistake. This is a simple mistake this is one thing that I just need to practice more on is actively analyzing, right? Something that I do a lot is get so stuck and so fixed on just my bias and just kind of what I'm looking for that sometimes I forget to like actively analyze. I do it on like the current time frame, like on M15, I was actively analyzed, but I forget to go on the higher time frames, right? I still keep them in mind to a certain extent, but on this trade, for some reason, it just completely I don't know. I was just completely. I just like I said, I don't know. I just for some reason just did not go on higher time frames, and I just again this was just a complete mistake. This is like a super basic mistake that is just something that I should not have done, right? So usually the reason why I have enter on there because it's usually you want to wait for a higher low point, right? To enter this is why I was getting in based off this higher low point. But the reason why I was expecting for it to kind of not necessarily kind of consolidate, but have that big push, was because I thought that we were still within this H1 candle here, this doji here. So I'm gonna go here. All time frames. So that was that entry there, right? So I thought we were still within this candle. So when we pushed up here, in my head, I had pictured this candle here being an engulfing. And with that engulfing, with an M15 engulfing, and us essentially just maintaining structure all along here, not once, we just never really broke structure at all, right? We just never broke structure to like the downside, anything like that. So, like I said, based off here, off the M15, we're still maintaining bullish. This was still even. I mean, this is just kind of looking at this in hindsight, but on M15, we even had kind of that same exact inverse head and shoulder, right? That same one, boom, and we kind of essentially put it out. So that was my headspace at that time. Completely just made a rookie mistake. Something that I should just again, that was my whole momentum. Why? If I would have known that, okay, because again, this was that. If I would have just paid a bit more attention and understand that this candle here had just opened. This was like within like the first 5 minutes. I would have been a lot more patient because instead of this is less something that I really try to focus on sometimes is waiting for this candle to close. And if I have an entry opportunity to enter when this closes, it kind of has like that nice momentum push. Like last week, all those 3 trades that I took had a similar setups like that. So again, I should have just been a lot more patient here, and I just completely just ignored the fact that I had looked at H1. So that already was just complete like just messed me up, right? But all right, so now this is where I was maintaining the trade, right? But I wasn't scared yet, right? I understood my points. I understood my points that needed to be broken for me to really understand that I'm in the wrong, right? So for one, obviously was when I had entry off here, it was based off this M. What was entry? It was based off this candle here, right? We had entry based off this candle here, this candle and this candle here, which is a big momentum candle. Yeah, so my stops, right? Stops were actually it were right below here. These are my stops. Why? Because if you go based off the M15, right? This is essentially we have made this push, so we just want to maintain this, right? So I understood that even we could have even came down here, right? Boom, like fluctuated all the way down here, wicked here, and then still had a potential push up, right? So this is why I have my stops where they had to be. But again, the only thing that I do regret 100% regret. The only thing that I regret doing is I don't know, and I just felt so confident because of but I thought that H1 candle. That's what I was going so based off heavily, was that H1 candle. That's what was carrying based essentially my confidence, because I had entered two positions, as you guys can see. This here was a 1.5, and this was a one lot. So I had, again, and having the stops down here, I think it was something like, Jesus, I forgot exactly. I think it was like 400, 500. I think it was like 500 that I was risking based off this one trade, right? So once it was kind of retracing, I was definitely feeling the pressure. This is the first time that I was actually feeling that pressure, because again, I just came off of like a 3-day winning streak, right? Um, but again, just making these dumb mistakes, 'cause, like, these are mistakes that just shouldn't have made, right? And that was just unnecessary. Like, that was just unnecessary things I had to go through, because again, if I just had clicked on that H1 time frame, I would just seen, okay, we just closed there. That was a wick, so this is the end. That new candle had just formed. Let's be a bit more patient, right? Which I didn't. But again, I was not scared because I understood that, okay, as long as we don't break underneath here, close underneath here, do all that stuff, we're still valid for the push up. And then based off this here, we had formed, or the not yet. We weren't forming this H1 candle yet. Oh yeah, we weren't forming this here. So I understood that as long as we can maintain essentially this bullish push here, we're still good, right? But I understood that this was solely more based off the M15. As long as we don't break underneath here, we're good, right? In which we didn't. We still had maintained this all along here, but it was just like lagging it, right? Just the way it's doing it. It was doing its structure, right? So I was very like confident in this whole thing. Boom, right? We had our entered off here. This is the higher low. Then we got the higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, right? And we just kept pushing. At this point in time, I was about $290 in profit, right? $290 in profit. Like I said, this was a profitable. I was in profits, right? And this is my other mistake now that I'm gonna. Again, these are the two mistakes. There's three mistakes that I mainly made, and this just it kills me. It kills me that I made these mistakes. Um, like I said, first was just understanding that we shouldn't have not skilled in, right? The first one was obviously just us understanding that this was a move that we should have been a lot more patient in. Second mistake was I do not know why I had to put another entry, like one entry again, but I think it was just coming off a week that I was just doing so good, and I just wanted to be a lot more aggressive. Again, I just bad timing, and it was just bad in my part, meaning like, let's go back to right here, right? Literally after this Friday trade, I took a break on Saturday, did not trade, did not study, did not do anything on Saturday. Sunday, same thing. Monday, same thing. I took 3 days off of no charts, no nothing, and that just killed. Especially like me as a beginner. Maybe if I had like more years within mine, this would be okay. But me as a beginner, this is like something that again I gotta be more consistent on. You know what I mean? It's not, and again I just get really busy, right? And again, it's just excuses, but it's not like I'm just laying down and just like not doing nothing, right? Like I said, I work these Friday through Monday. I have a 9 to 5 job. Yeah. Well, I work 10 hours, um, every day. So basically, that's pretty much like my whole day, right? That goes my entire day within those 10 hours. And then this is why Tuesday, like again, I'm able to trade because again I don't really work Tuesday through Wednesday. Um, but it's still right. Like these 3 days of not doing nothing, it kills the momentum. It really just kills it. One day, cool, right? Get a breather, reach. You know what I mean? Charge my quick little R&R, right? Um, but again, it just kills the fact that we kind of don't do nothing for 3 days and they come back. And this is why I was making mistakes, right? These are why I make these dumb mistakes, because at the end of the day, it's like I'm not putting that consistency of work to really kind of get that momentum to really push through, right? This is why I'm getting this inconsistency, right? Again, I see that I have the potential, right? 3 days, 1.1K, right? That's a nice trade right there. Even before then, right? A 400 trade. And then back to back. This is when I started getting real consistent, right? Back to back, back to back. Then we come here. I mean, this was a trade. Again, I was profitable, right? And this is my other mistake. I was like damn near $300 in profit, right? I could have easily closed out, right? But my TP that I had in mind was up here. So I had enter here, right? And up here. This just kills me. I hate seeing this. Like we hit our take profit. if we're $300 in profit right here, like right here, I mean, again, this is what I mean. This is what I mean, right? So that was my take profit. That's what I was aiming for. So when we came up to this point, right? Again, my other mistake, like I just said, actively analyze. So based off this here, so because I made that mistake based off H1, right? And I was like, okay, now we gotta look on H1. Now we gotta look on H1. I was so zoomed in on H1, so that when we pop up here, right? This is when I was like up $290 in profit. Again, this is when I was literally about to go to bed, right? But I had to realize I was looking on H1. I was like, okay, cool. This can still maintain. If this has a potential, this has potential to be able to actually maintain, right? And for us to actually continue to push up. Like I said, there's no structure. All structure is still pointing to be valid, right? All valid. Everything's good, right? So now, like I said, we're up here. I said, you know what? I feel confident enough to put my stops up here, right here, because of H1. As long as we maintain this here, we should be good. If we break under this, then it's gonna fully transition into like a bearish and it'll be more bearish. All this stuff, right? So I understood that point, and that's still true. That's still true. So like for my strategy, I still see this as this push down through. This would have been more of a bearish momentum type of move, right? And again, I simply just put my stops here. I was up here at profit. I was feeling good, you know what I mean? Good enough to obviously fall asleep. And I woke up around like 1 in the morning, check the trade, stop loss hit, right? So my mistake, again, not actively analyzing, right? Not actively analyzing. Not understanding that at the end of the day, this was that whole move. Like this here was that whole move. Again, I was just so zoomed in and I was just so zoomed in. I get so zoomed in based off like my H1, M15, right? I was like, okay, as long as we don't break this level here, we're still good. We're still valid, right? We had pushed up here. And for some reason, again, I just completely blinked out this little support here. So I have that right there. But this support right here, Jesus. Like not understanding that, okay, like, and essentially as this trade is developing, right, this is why I have to start actively analyzing, because everything was just based off the M15. I was so focused on this, getting this push off the M15, that again, I was so fixated on just, okay, even if we get a little retracement, if we break underneath here, all this stuff, like I was just so fixated on M15 that we would go bearish. But not understanding that this can obviously retrace all the way down here and still maintain this whole entire push up. And that's just something that, again, let me just analyze a little bit, because I think this had to do, it was this, oh yeah, so this was our retracement here. This little retracement is what's seen on that H1 time frame, right? Boom. That is a 30, that's not even a 38.2 yet. It's a 23.6. That's not a valid higher low point. That's not a valid higher low point. So this whole time, literally, because again, I was literally just going to bed. Like I just looked at this here. I literally looked at it quick. Okay, boom, I see a little support. Okay, we can't break the support. If we break the support, we're done. And that's where I have my stops, and that's where I just ended it. Not knowing that that's not even a valid support. So because it's not a valid support, this is just one big push, and this is the retracement. So essentially, our stops should have been down here. And look at this. This would have been that. And that's not, again, because I wasn't just actively analyzing. I was so zoomed in on just the M15 push and just a little, I was just, again, just going based off just what I was seeing, not really analyzing, just boom, 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 real quick. And again, not understanding that as this trade started to develop, right? Higher high, higher low, higher high. This is all more like based off the M15. All this, that's also creating structure on here. So the minute this starts closing candles, we also now have to start actively analyzing based off the H1 and understand that, okay, if we have structure now developing, what do we have to do? What does it have to look like in order for us to maintain this whole entire bullish structure? And again, stops should have been out here, right? But in this kind of goes back to just again not looking at things in hindsight. Even if I would have noticed this, I don't know if I truly would have been able to, because again, I had my stops. My previous stops were right here, right underneath this here. Like when I barely entered, this was about, again, I think near like 500 bucks, right? So entering my stop loss down here, that would have been like 1,000 or like something crazy. You know what I mean? And that all goes because I messed up on that extra scaling. If I didn't have that extra scaling um, entry, and then if I would have realized this, then I would have felt more open. But even if I would have caught this here, understood this, like, oh shit, this is where our stops need to be at, I don't think I would have been able to go through with that. So because of that, right? Again, it's not a bad trade. I would still take this trade hands down. The only thing I do regret with this whole thing was obviously my mistakes, but the only thing I actually regret is just having that second entry. It just made things way more complicated than it had to be, right? But even with this trade, so even with this trade here, even if I would have realized that, okay, boom, damn, okay, this is where my stops need to be at, and I'm not able to do that. So because I'm not able to do this, the minute we kind of start to exhaust here, I'm out. Like this should have been a quick move, boom, because I don't have the position. I don't have that position for me to be able to actually withhold this trade, right? These are my stops where they need to be at. I don't have that. I'm not able to do that. So I should have understood that, okay, boom, this is just going to be one simple trade, boom. Which again, I could have just easily took this one trade here, these two trades, boom, exited out, took my damn near 300 bucks in profit, and then got in again, and then wrote it up like appropriately how I should have done it. And because again, look at this, we literally hit our TP, and I knew it was gonna come up here. Not knew it like here exactly, but I knew we still had some push, right? Because again, even though with this exhaustion, H1 was not giving us that bearish like momentum, that bearish push. And I knew it, and I knew it, and this killed me. And I hate even just doing this whole should have, could have, would have. Again, I gotta be better, bro. I gotta be more disciplined. I gotta be more. Because again, this is easy trade. Like I had this trade in my hand, in the palms. This could have been again. I went out damn near, what was it, 300, 338. This could have been, that looks bad, right? It's a bad trade. I look like I'm not knowing what I could have gone from what I am here now, not knowing or not looking like what I know what I'm doing, to looking like I'm a freaking pro, and I could have gotten in 3 times, right? I could have just took these two entries, boom, exit, wait for that pullback, boom, another again, and ride that out. Even maybe gotten like another entry because I felt so confident in this whole push up. This sucks, but this trade definitely got me, because again, it was so much unnecessary things that I just put myself into, like unnecessary positions, unnecessary pressure, unnecessary drawdown, all that stuff. Like it was just not necessary whatsoever, and I was just literally shooting myself in the foot, making it so much harder on myself. And again, it's just dumb, just so dumb. Like I should have been actively analyzing, understood this whole entire. And this is another thing I have trouble doing. Right, it's just like seeing the whole thing, because I get so caught up in just what I want to see and just kind of this push up. You know what I mean? Because when I enter a trade, for example, like this trade here, I'm like, okay, I'm expecting this to push up, right? To push up and obviously have that nice big push. But I gotta understand that as things start to develop, I need to understand to kind of be able to see the whole thing as a whole, and just kind of understand it as a whole, and understand that this is just, again, if you don't get that major push like I'm expecting, like again, like boom, and drastic move like how we want it to be, doesn't mean our trade's over, right? But again, we have to understand our key points that we need to be at in order for us to kind of take advantage of this position, right? So again, this is the last time I even talk about this trade. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Dumb mistakes. Shooting myself in the foot, right? But there's just so many things that I need to just take from this, right? So for sure, number one I need to work on is obviously, and this is something that I don't even have trouble with. I don't even know why I did it here. Again, there's just so much confidence I had. It's like I said, breaking this H1 candle down. I thought we were within this candle the entire time, but we weren't, right? So even if you were, like again, it's just two positions again, just overly confident, and it's like for what we didn't even. I would understand right if I put in work, even Sunday, Monday, and I was just putting grinding, coming into this week just ready. You know what I mean? But it wasn't. So this is just dumb, super dumb of me. And like I said, my second thing that I need to just actively analyze, right, especially based off the H1 time frame, how is it forming? What are things forming? Okay, I see a support level. Is this a valid support level? Is it a key point or is it just support, right? Um, if this were to retrace, you know what I mean, what's the actual possibilities of this actually going down? Are we out of the fluctuation zone? Can I put my stops there? All that stuff, right? Um, so that was one. Two, again, actively analyze. Um, and I think there's one more, no? Position, entry. Like I said, I like the entry. Everything was hands down good. Everything was good. Just again, just those two. Thought there was one more, but I guess not. And like I said, maybe this was because again, I didn't even see the possibilities of this here. Like I was entering, right? Like it's just completely just so dumb. This is easy. This is dumb. This is literally just structure, market structure, right? Stuff that we shouldn't be messing up. This is easy, basic stuff. Higher highs, higher lows. Understanding this is just one big push, and it's still bullish. So we still need to what maintain this, and as long as we can maintain this, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. So this is dumb, right? But again, last time I talk about it, learn from this for sure. Actively analyze this whole thing, and just patience, because I think this is the first time I actually trade this pair in a long time. And even when we were right here, as you can see, it was just very laggy, very laggy, right? Even when we got this entry here, which I like, right? It's not bad, but it's a big patient thing for sure. Even based off H1, right? Based off H1, even after we got that push, kind of just, you know what I mean? Same thing like M15. So definitely a big big factor when it comes to patience. Oh, this is another entry too. Like I don't even know if I would have been able to withhold this here. Like this means that we would have entries. We would have need to have an entry here. Boom. And have our stops down here because this thing just wicked like crazy. Like crazy. So yeah, so that was that trade, right? Here's what it is. We move on. Next trade was US 30, right? Same thing here. Dumb mistake. But nonetheless, yep, that's what it was. All right, so coming into this pair, and this hit my TP too. But this is dumb. I wouldn't like this. Doesn't make sense. Like, look at this. This doesn't even make sense. Literally went up, went down, went all the way up, went all the way down, went all the way up, went all the way down. Like that's just crazy. Again, there was some crazy news today too. So, but this is why I was trying to enter kind of when it was a little bit more like before the news hit. I forgot what time the news was coming out, but I remember entering like early before all that. But nonetheless, right, based off H4, overall we're still mainly bullish, right? We have this higher low here, we have this higher high here. Understanding that this was just a big like retracement in a sense, right? And then we got that push. So at this point in time, it was just really more about seeing whether or not this level here can actually maintain. It even looks like, and this is just kind of analyzing now, like we're gonna potentially have some type of symmetrical triangle to a certain extent. I'm just kind of bounce within these levels, right? But nonetheless, same thing, right? So even if this was going to be like, okay, because we did break this higher low point here, so this kind of shifted a tad bit more bearish. So this could have been that lower high, right? That lower low, even here, right? So even if we were going to look for a little bearish move, I thought that we weren't yet transitioned, but then I analyzed it again, and I missed something so simple, right? First off, on H1, I thought we were still bullish. Not seeing that here, we have a candle underneath, under the support. So this makes this time frame here bearish. And I was looking at this more bullish. Mainly why? Because I just come again. Like this is just simple structure. This is so simple. I'm just like step one type of things. You know what I mean? I'm just literally just dropping the ball, not freaking. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. I don't know. I don't know why I made these mistakes. Again, it's just again. So this was lower high, lower high, lower low. So I thought again that this wasn't a lower high, lower low, because when we come down here, right, based off this H1 down to the M15, as you can see down here, we still maintain this level of support based off the M15 time frame. Is that the same? Yeah, it's this support here, but then it's slightly on the zone. So it's still technically tested, if that makes sense. Tested here. So I remember going off H1, seeing that support, going straight down to M15, and then okay, that's still tested, and then I just completely continued to analyze. And for some reason, like I saw the support. For some reason, I just did not do this, and I would have been like, "Oh shit, we're bearish." But because of this, for some, I just saw this support, saw this push down. I was like, "I'm going to 15 real quick. Oh, we're maintaining that. Okay, cool. We're still bullish. H1, we're still bullish. Like that's all I thought." When in reality, H1 was more bearish. So now, it just kills me. It kills me seeing this, bro. Because again, because we're still bearish, right? And I entered off a buy position, right? I thought we were bullish. And I entered based off this here, this push. Which again, we got the push that we needed. We always get that. Again, that's one thing that I am starting to lean on a lot more, and I do feel confident on my entries, right? Because every entry you see, we get the push, right? We get that initial push that we need. So I know that I'm understanding that there, but I get so lost in just what I'm currently looking at in the overall picture, right? So even understanding this here, this was still bearish, right? At the end of the day, this was still bearish because, like I just said here, lower high. This is a lower high point here, right? Lower high, a lower low, right? Bearish. So technically, based off this, we don't become even bullish to even look for bullish opportunity until we get this push. So I should not have entered off this candle. I should have waited for this candle to form and then come back and look at this here. And then enter based off this, which again, if you were to look for a buy opportunity, this would have been a perfect buy opportunity after this point here, right? And because I had entered here, and I remember, okay, I had entered here, boom, and I remember I had put my stop loss here, right? And I remember at the time I was like, damn, bro, like, because this is the perfect like stops, right? We're out of the fluctuations. I think I even had a little bit of room. Out of the fluctuation zone, even based off H4, there was no wicks. Like this is a full body. Like there's no wicks at all within this area here, right? So we were clear. We're clear. With the stops, but again, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, we're still bearish. Like we're not like a. This is why we don't enter based off this because again, it just wasn't even bullish yet to even begin with. You know what I mean? And then once we get this push here, that indicates okay, now we can start looking for a potential buy opportunity. That's when we let all this play out. You know what I mean? We would have let this all played out, done all this stuff, and then understand our structure and then go based off that, entering based off somewhere around here, based off like the lower time frame. Right? But again, so it doesn't even matter. It doesn't because at first I was just like, damn, I was kind of annoyed about the stops, right? That I had perfect stops. Even if this were to retrace all this stuff, But again, because we're still in this, and initially we're still bearish, right? So initially, I know that this can even become a deep retracement, which it was. Right? This easily was a deep retracement. It looked like we were actually going to go bearish, still maintained, right? So again, this is even like something that we just need to just really pay attention to. So at this point in time, this trade here shouldn't have even been taken. Like at this point in time, our buy opportunity technically would have been here after this point. So this is a trade where again I shouldn't even have taken, and it should have been here. I was just way too early, and that was a trade that we ended up losing again. That ends up putting me at a total of 565. So again, so these two L's, again, these two losses, they're bad losses, obviously, because of just the mistakes that I did, right? But it's like they're not. How can I do it? I would have been a bit more torn apart if like our analysis was completely off and just did something completely off. But like I said, that first trade again, we were in profit. We easily could have made money and then entered another one or two positions again on top of that to continue flowing with the main trend, right? And that we were analyzing. Easy. That's easy profit day. We wake up and then coming into today, looking at this trade, if we would have learned, if we would have seen and understood to be a lot more patient, we could have had a trade too, or just understand the fact that we're still bearish. So a sell opportunity around here would have been still valid at that point too. And understand that we can have a deep retracement based on all this was going on. So all this is just again, but not even. I don't just like I could have got that entry. I could have got this entry right. Like it should. At the end of the day, I just shouldn't have entered off this trade here. This shouldn't even been a trade that I would have lost because again, it shouldn't even. You weren't even bullish to begin with. So I don't understand why I even took a buy opportunity again. Not I just completely just rookie mistake, right? Dumbest mistake I could have made. Just like not tying your shoes, like when like or like missing a layup. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. That's just like how am I still doing? Like how am I still missing that? So again, it killed me because again I could have had a great start right now. I don't even again I don't like to sit here and think about the should have could have, but this could have been a nice start to the week, and then coming out here. So now it's kind of like, but I like it, right? I'm not even lying to you. Like it was a wake up call for sure, and it was something to really like. It got to me, right? Like it really got to me the fact that we did take these dumb losses that shouldn't have been losses. Um, so it really made me kind of wake up and kind of just like, all right, like I need to forget all my shit. Because this is just like it's not acceptable, especially at the rate that I'm trying to go and be at, and especially after putting in all these hours and hours and hours. Like these type of mistakes, I could understand maybe if it was some crazy wick, something that we couldn't even like, it wasn't even within our control. But no, everything that happened today was just obviously under my control, and I could have still won with even everything that was going on if I just had paid a bit more attention. So even with my sloppy entries, I could have entered and exit, made profit, all that stuff. Even based off here, understanding real quick that this is just an entry I shouldn't have even taken. And again, these are just things that are just messed up, right? So that's that. Those are my two trades. Like I said, learn from it. We gotta learn from it. Yeah, we just gotta learn from these trades. Because at the end of the day, it's just like I said, not acceptable for us to be losing this way. But like I said, I like it. Like I said, it was a losses that I did need for sure. And I don't feel any type of way like as of like I'm trying to revenge trade or trying to like now I'm trying to make up what I just lost. Obviously, that's the goal, right? Obviously, just to continue to make money. But again, I was actually patient throughout this. Even when I lost, it wasn't even affecting me. It was just like I said, I just closed my computer. I'll analyze it later on, like as I'm doing right now. Learn from it, and that's it. And we simply just move on, right? To the next trade. We live to see another day. Like I said, there's still tonight that we can actually hopefully turn up, and turn this around, and then we still have the morning, and then we still have Friday, right? But again, it's the same thing. Even when this week does end, I need to find ways to just consistently just stay on top of my day trading, right? That's just something that I need to work on. Something that I need to work on. Again, I'm there. I'm right there. I'm telling you guys right now, I'm there from just being really, really consistent. But I gotta be more. It's hard. It's hard to be more like realistic and essentially because again, I feel like it all just ties down to just understanding, right? Just understanding, knowing what my key points are. If this were to retrace like how it happened, can we still be able to maintain this? It's still valid. It's still all this stuff, right? Even then, though, I'm not even in position for me to be able to scale in. Um, I'm really not, right? So I feel like at the end of the day that I just need to really, if I want to try practicing scaling in, then I feel like I need to close my orders, the initial ones, and then maybe enter with a super, super lower lot size, and just so I can kind of grasp the idea, right? So essentially, like here or here, maybe just kind of enter here, exit, collect our profits, and then maybe here, enter off a lower time frame, lower a lower lot size, and then kind of just go with the flow and start kind of understanding there, right? But again, at the end of the day, we need to just make profits. That's our goal. That's my goal right now, making profits every day. Um, because again, I just can't be again the big home runs, moves they'll come, right? I just need to learn how to be more consistent. And again, it's just a patient game. Got to stop trying to rush the process. I feel like today or yesterday, it was just something that I was so confident coming in that at this point I was all right. It's time to make money. I was just rushing a lot of things. Um, so yeah, so like I said, right now, currently 523. I'm gonna analyze all my pairs. These are all the pairs that I initially had more last week, but it was just being too unrealistic, right? There's so many pairs, and even with these 4 pairs here, I still feel like it's a lot. You know, what I mean, I had like 6, 8 pairs that I was trying to analyze and just do a whole bunch of stuff on, which didn't make sense, right? And these are just again good pairs. These are all pairs that again have been good to me. Like I understand them to a certain extent. They're not too sloppy. They're not too messy. I feel like the most sloppiest one out of all this is probably UJ, um, because of all the wicks that it does at times. But it's just I feel like again these pairs I do like trading sloppy pairs. Not too many. Like one is good for me. Just again because again it's a patient. This teaches you patience, right? It teaches you, this trade here, like I just said, it was very very laggy. Like it took forever to get to where I need to be, even off based off here. So this pair really does teach you patience, right? And just kind of understands, and especially understands your key points for sure. So it's good practice. And then GU is another good pair that again I just understand, right? GU was actually a pair that helped me really understand my strategy. And then gold and US30, well, those are just pairs that I really really also enjoy trading because of the payouts and whatnot. And like some they're really really smooth too. Just they can be very volatile and aggressive, especially US30 because they're really really news based off, right? Based off news and stuff. Um, so yeah, so again, coming in, like I said, with this next today or tonight plus tomorrow, again, my headspace is simply just again, it's just that the trade's not there. It's not there. You know what I mean? I don't have to take trades. I'm not here to revenge trade. I don't feel like that. At the end of the day, it's just we lost. We took our losses at the end of the day. That's what we move on and we try to find other opportunities. Um, but again, just is what it is. Focus. Now I need to start focusing on the new trade. Um. So yeah. So we'll see how this kind of plays out. I still want to find a way to actually be able to live stream my trades, but again, because they're so sporadic at times. But again, I might just post them like that, just very sporadic, right? So again, this is not really. I'm making this channel, like I said before, it's just learning, right? It's not really. I'm not really here to become something or do anything like that. Just for me to really actually be able to learn, um, and yeah, just again, just really see what I'm going through in that trade at that time, you know. So yeah, peace.